Hi, and welcome to today's episode. I'm so excited to introduce to you my guest today, Barbara Lally. Barbara is a writer, mental health advocate, peer coach, and the voice behind the podcast Trich Talks. Known for her heartfelt storytelling and vulnerability, Barbara uses her platform to raise awareness about trichotillomania and other body-focused repetitive behaviors. Through her books, support groups, and online presence, she empowers others to embrace their healing journey. Hi, Barbara. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I've only had one other guest, and she was a mentor and is a mentor of mine that has had trichotillomania. So it's really fun to get to talk about something that you and I both know so well. And this is what listeners want to hear, I think, because they like to know that there are people like us out there that I mean, my story is I found tapping, and that's how I was able to overcome this addiction to pulling. So I want to talk a little bit about your journey and tell us how you got here.
Great. Thank you. So I started pulling out my hair when I was 10. I started with my eyebrows when they were gone, quickly moved to eyelashes and then hair on my scalp. And at the time, 2001, there wasn't much information. And so my parents were frantic, looking around, different doctors, therapists, psychiatrists. I was in different studies. I'm from Philadelphia, so it's a larger city that has these options. And so for me, it was like, I am doing something wrong. I'm this little kid still. So I thought, uh-oh, I'm doing something wrong. I don't know how to stop. I'm bad. I'm doing this bad thing. I really, really want to stop. Somebody help me. And it was hard for us as a family because there weren't many answers. There was try this or do this. And the fact that I was able to participate in studies and they're taking my pictures and they're asking me questions and they're recording my responses, it also kind of solidified that I'm doing something that's abnormal and that I'm helping find answers, but there still aren't any.
Uh-huh.
And so I lived with the shame of that for pretty much my whole life until I was into adulthood, into my late 20s, where I finally decided like, hey, maybe I should talk about this. I'm holding this thing in. I hate it so much. I never gave it the time of day because I just wanted to ignore it, pretend it wasn't there. And so I started an anonymous Instagram account called The Trickster Diaries in hopes that maybe one day I would release a book, a collection of my memories surrounding the disorder.
Mhm.
And once I started that, and then I started to post little snippets, little memories, and I heard, me too. Oh, I experienced that too. It started this like snowball effect of, oh my gosh, I can't stop talking about this. It feels so good. I can't wait to meet other people like me. And eventually the book came out. I wasn't anonymous anymore. Now I make videos with my face. Like it's this whole big thing, but it was so kind of out of the blue that my brain just said, you know what? What are we holding this in for
Mhm.
anymore?
Mhm.
And being so free about my experience and sharing it with everybody, it really healed so much of me that I feel freedom from my BFRB. I still engage in it every
Mhm.
so often, but not in the same extent and not with
Mhm.
all those negative feelings. So
Yep.
I think sharing my experience, it definitely led me to this BFRB freedom and like, what does that mean for me and things like that.
Yeah, so I love that story, and it's very similar to what happened for me with tapping. Growing up, I was 8 years old, pulling out all my eyelashes one summer when I was stuck in the house with chicken pox with my brother and sister. And that was my coping mechanism of, hey, I'm trapped, and I don't really know how to voice my emotions, and this is what I'm doing. So it was like, then I never did my eyebrows for some reason, but when I was in school after the summer, I went to school with no eyelashes, and it was horrible. I remember people asking me all these questions, I felt really vulnerable and I felt really shameful. And then I started pulling my head hair, and same thing. And this is in the 80s, where or they really didn't know anything. I mean, I'm 50 now. So I pulled my hair for 36 years before finding tapping. And it's a struggle though, still. every day because it's an addiction. I don't know if you believe it is an addiction, but it's the same as you get a dopamine hit when you pull that hair, and it sets something off in your brain that you just want more and more of that feeling. So it's like you're addicted to that dopamine hit that you get when you pull that hair. And you could compare it to smoking cigarettes, you could compare it to alcoholism, you could compare it to shopping addiction, to anything. Would you agree?
I do, and I don't. It's hard for me to because I've spoken to other people who don't even love the term body focused repetitive behavior. They want it to be a body focused processing addiction because there are so many similarities to addictive
Never
behavior
heard
like
that.
smoking. Yes, I'll send you the information of the two therapists that I spoke to about that would like to change it. And
Okay.
I can totally relate. I think what's tough for me personally is, hearing the term addiction, it to me is it's very scary. And I know BFRBs are scary, right? We're doing this thing, we can't stop, we can't control it. I I feel like I understand the addictiveness and the release that we get, but at the same time, I view my behavior as something gentle. It's like for some reason, addiction feels really hard to me,
Uh-huh.
really sharp and pointy,
Yes.
whereas like a self-soothing behavior, which is what I'll call it, for myself, it feels more gentle, and that's just something I personally relate to more is that gentleness
Mhm.
of the self-soothing
Yeah,
side.
no, I get that. And it is a self-soothing behavior. It's something that makes you feel comfortable. It's something that makes you feel, it's something that detaches you from what's going on so that you're technically not present when you're doing the behavior. So it's hard because with tapping, you not everyone wants to stop, and that's perfectly fine, and not everyone can stop. I was able to, by, I don't know if it was from luck, I don't know what it was from, but I was able to clear layers with tapping of stuck energy from my past, of the reasons why I did it. And I when you talk about freedom, you can still live your life with pulling and still feel free. But I felt so called to, like, do something after I knew I was done pulling, that I got this tattoo on my wrist that says freedom, because I wanted to know, I wanted to be able to look at my hands and, or, my hand, and know, hey, I overcame something that was like really debilitating. It, it really ruled my life. And there was so much shame around it too. Like you said, and regardless of when I was getting trained in EFT, I knew I was gonna my niche was gonna be working with people with body focused repetitive behaviors, regardless if mine cleared or not. I would still, and I had relapses even when I was still teaching, after I was certified in EFT. So I knew that that was my calling, and it was a big deal. Like you said, I was carrying the secret for 36 years. And I mean, I wore a full wig for years because I had no hair. I had no eyelashes. I wore false eyelashes for years and years and years. And there'd be times where I wouldn't, and there'd be times where I did, and there'd be times where I'd have eyelashes. And it's a really slippery slope dealing with this behavior. But I I remember going with my sister to, she lives in Columbus, and I didn't tell my husband I was going to do this. And so he was like really shocked because I'm not a tattoo person. But I remember her saying to me right before I got it done, are you sure you want to do this? Because this puts kind of a lot of pressure on you to never pull again. And I said, you know what? I don't care. Even if I did, it's, this is, this is important to me. It's like a symbol of, hey, either way, either way, I feel free. And it's a kind of, it's cathartic to know that this is, I've told all of my closest friends, everyone who I can think of, ex-boyfriends, my husband, who I didn't even tell that I had this before we got married. I didn't tell him until after we were married. So it's really a lot of, it's a lot, a big weight to bear. And I mean, did your husband know about your pulling before you got married?
Yes. So he learned fairly early on in the relationship. Him and I, much like everyone else, you hear a term or you see something, you're like, oh, let me Google that, let me learn more information about it. And so we were talking about mental health and Tourette's and things like that. Like I had known people in my life just sharing experiences. And he said, not in like a any type of way, but he was like, oh, you don't have anything like that. And I go, well, I do. We were sitting down in an Applebee's, and I made it very awkward because I go, I do, but I don't want to tell you right now. He goes, okay. And it was like right about when we were going to get the check. So for the next like 5 to 10 minutes, I'm like, so anyway, and I made it this like so awkward moment, like such an awkward moment. We get into the car and I go, okay. And then I share. I pull out my hair and this is how long I've been doing it. And at the time, I wasn't showing any of the signs. Like I was still pulling a few hairs here and there, but I didn't have any visible bald spots. Everything was kind of grown back in. So he was like, okay, cool. It was only until the pandemic, I think that was 5 years later into our relationship, that he got to see the full effects, like completely bare eyelids. I'm asking him, hey, can you see my bald spot when I put my hair up in a ponytail? But yeah, I did tell him in a weird way right away.
And he was accepting of it though. I mean, he didn't care, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, he just, yeah, it is what it is. Oh, okay, that's something that you have, and okay, I still love you anyway. My husband said, I don't care if you shave your head, I'll still love you. So it's, I mean, that's how you know you're with the right person. One of the reasons, but I'm wondering what if you could describe what your life with Trick looks like today. Like
Ooh,
what, yeah, how do you like just describe what you think your life with Trick looks like?
what a great question. I'm so excited to answer this. So, my life with trichotillomania today looks like I talk about it all the time, so I'm constantly thinking about it in a good way. So that's brand new. Well, not
Mhm,
brand new, within the last few years.
mhm,
So I think about it all the time. I'm constantly trying different strategies that I've learned from other people in the community. So I'm learning from others, and I am treating my trichotillomania like a signal. So if I do notice that I'm engaging in the behavior, I take a moment, I say, well, wait a minute. What do I need right now? What's going on here? I'm constantly checking in. Whereas before, I would engage in the behavior and then beat myself up about it, and then I would pull for hours on end. So I
mhm.
don't do that any longer. So yeah, it's still something that's very present in my life, but in such a positive way that I don't mind it at all. I feel like this is where I'm meant to be. And so, yeah.
So I remember wanting to have kids. And when I was 30, I still wasn't even married yet, but I remember thinking, I don't want to give this to my kids. I don't want them to ever know about it. I don't want them to see about, I don't want them to feel stressed out about it. I don't even want to have to tell them that I ever did this. Do you have any of that going on since you're not, you don't have kids yet? Does that concern you?
It actually doesn't. And I believe it did. I believe it did before. But at this point in my life, I don't know if this is going to sound cocky or what, but if I have a child with a BFRB, I think who better to parent than me? Who better to parent that child than to see someone, their mother, look like this and still feel, beautiful, confident, successful, life is great, and to shed some of that shame that I carried for so long because I didn't have somebody who looked like me, and those who did look like me that I saw, it was on the TV, so they're making it so dramatic and sad and scary and miserable. Whereas if I were to have a child with a BFRB, guess what? Mommy can come to the school, we can talk about it, depending on what they want. But I think it'd be such a different experience that yeah, I'm not scared at all.
Yeah, I think that that's an awesome way to look at it because I was pulling my hair out when I had kids. And the reason I found tapping was when my second son was little, he was extremely colicky and I was exhausted and I was nursing and he never slept and I never slept. And I would be in the nursing chair, it seemed like for days and never getting up. It was like all I did was nurse. And I would be pulling my hair out and there'd be piles of hair on the floor when I'd get up. And I thought, you know what? I don't, I can't have this. I can't, I have an older son. I don't want, and I, it was then that I had this moment of like, I need help. Like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be this mom awake and have to explain this to your parents. And even if I had to, I'm sure they'd understand. But it was like I didn't want to. And that's when I found tapping. I Googled in the nursing chair in the middle of the night, ways to cure trich without drugs. And EFT came up and I learned how to do it from some YouTube videos. And it helped instantly. Like I didn't pull my hair for 3 months, which was unheard of. But then it was Thanksgiving time and my parents are divorced and it's always stressful around the holidays. And I started pulling my hair again. So, I mean, like I said, it's soothing behavior. So when something stressful comes up, it's our body's way of calming us. We're also highly sensitive people. And I just worked with a client this morning who it's hard to, if you don't understand about highly sensitive people, it's people like us who have trich and are highly sensitive, they get overwhelmed by a lot of things. Like you can't overdo it. And she had some people in her house helping her hang some pictures and stuff. And like she couldn't function. It was like she shut down and then started pulling her hair later that night because of the anxiety that situation caused that made her so uncomfortable. So there's all kinds of ways that people deal with their emotions and stuff. And like you said, though, I love that who better to teach a kid about trich than a parent that has trich, and it does run in families. I mean, I don't know if you know that, but it is hereditary. My mother has skin picking, which she picked all the skin off of her fingers and she still does from the time I was little. And I never put two and two together until I started doing EFT. And I was doing a bunch of research on trich, and it's hereditary. So most of my clients, like I don't know, 95% of my clients have a sibling, a parent that has a body focused repetitive behavior of some sort. So it's not that uncommon. It's just that hair pulling sounds really weird when you say hair pulling. I mean, so many people bite their nails and it's like not a big deal. So many people, there are so many other forms of it that 1% of the population actually has trichotillomania and people just don't really talk about it. So I love that there are people like us that are out there um, with trich, recovering from trich, talking about trich, making it known, making making it seem normal, like you're not a freak, there's nothing wrong with you, you're not mentally ill. I mean, all these horrible things that you read on the internet. The worst thing that I think I heard as a child dealing with this was it's not curable.
Hmm.
I mean, when you hear it's not curable, what does that mean to you?
So that is something I also heard as a kid. And I think at first it was kind of like a death sentence. Like, oh, great. This is all right. Well, let's buckle up.
I know.
Let's buckle up. And I think because of those memories of trying so hard to find the cure, like what is the cure? What is the cure? And like I'm trying all these things, I'm not succeeding. Like I'm trying medication, I'm trying this, I'm trying this, I'm trying this, I'm trying this. So to me, I personally I don't even look for a cure. I look to just lessen the behavior so it's not negatively impacting me at all.
Mhm.
And so just because of those experiences younger, my mindset is how can I check in with myself? How can I adapt to these different situations? How can I prepare better? How can I, if this is going to happen to me, which it very well could, how can I be the best prepared and in the right mindset for it? And because I think sometimes when people do hear cure, oh, like they'll Google, how do I cure? And I've done that thousands of times. And it's always like, well, try this one thing. Well, to me, for my experience, it's a lot of little things and they're changing and it's for me, building this like BFRB toolkit or toolbox and having a bunch of things at my disposal so that I can, you know, cure myself of those moments when they come up or lessen them so much that I'm not in the chair for hours like I used to be.
Yeah. So that was my next question. Tell us what has helped, what methods, what tools have helped you the most to manage your trick?
Thank you. Yeah. So the first thing was sharing my experience, whether it's publicly or privately, just starting to have that conversation with yourself and get it out and accept that the things that you went through when you were younger, you can kind of heal your inner child and say, hey, you were doing a great job. You might never have heard that before from people, but you can go back and say, you know what, you were doing the best you could at the time. Please, let's let go of some of that shame. So, first, getting rid of the shame was huge for me. And then I love to have physical blockers. I know some people don't like the barrier, they don't like the blocker, but for me personally, that's something I like. So, band-aids or tape on my fingertips. I love to wear hats. I like my hair up and out of my face. I know I have my hair down now, but it won't be down for long. I just am on camera. But doing things like that, creating a routine so that I know that I won't have that kind of argument in my head where it's like, oh, just it doesn't matter. For example, when I wash my hair, I have to wash and dry my hair like same time. Because if I let my hair dry naturally, I have regrowth coming in that's curly. It's a different texture than the rest of my hair, so that's triggering for me.
Yeah.
hmm So it's showering once my hair is dirty, washing my hair. Then after that, I can let it air dry for a little bit because I don't pull wet hair. So I let it air dry a little, not completely. Then I dry my hair with my little tool, my Revlon, and that's going to help me not pull for so long because I'm giving myself that time. I'm kind of like pushing everything. If my hair's clean, I'm not in it. It's things like that. It's stacking the strategies. I know I'm going to pull at my desk. Okay, where's my key to? Where's my hat? Where's my tape? Where's my water? Can I stretch? It's all of these things where my main objective is getting to know this disorder as best as I can, as random as it seems. There are some patterns, and can I acknowledge them and prepare for them? So I guess my number one method, if I were to share with anybody, is try to get to know it. And every time you do have a relapse or a big pulling spree, like take note of what happened before, during, after, and can we prepare next time and
Yep.
like shorten that time period.
I totally agree with all of that. And the things that you talked about are all things I did and all things that I teach my clients to do on top of tapping. Tapping is in your toolbox, but the finger tape, that's a big thing. And I have a special tape that I really like. It's the vet tape and it's kind of sticky. So if you tape your fingers, if your hand goes up or in your hair, it sticks. It feels really weird. And that's a subconscious thing. Okay. My hand just goes to my head. It's like brushing your teeth. You just know you brush your teeth right before bed every night. So when your hand goes up, that's when you get a second to say your conscious mind is only 10% of your decision making, which is hard to believe. 90% of your decision making is your subconscious, and your subconscious is really, really powerful. But when you go up to your hair to pull and you feel something different, oh, that doesn't feel the same. That's when you have a split second to say, what am I going to do here? I'm allowed to pull and maybe I'll feel bad about it. I'm allowed to pull and not feel bad about it. Or I'm allowed to do something that's positive and figure out why I'm doing this thing. So that's where tapping comes in with my clients is, then I teach you how to tap one spot, tap until the urge passes, until you can like ride that wave of whatever is going on. Be present with it. And that's the worst part because the pulling numbs the uncomfortableness, whatever that is. I'm procrastinating about doing this thing for work. Oh, I don't want to clean the bathroom. I don't want to do this. There's usually a reason why. And it's so hard though. I mean, it's managing it is hard, but it can be managed. And you're proof of, and I'm proof of that it can be managed. And are there times that I wish I could just pull out all my eyelashes? Yes, a million times. It's like if so, I mean, the urge still comes. And the hardest part is the actual automatic behavior of your hand going to your hair, because my hand goes to my head all the time still. And my husband will even say to me, "Are you pulling your hair?" And I'll go, "Oh my God, no, but my hand's just there." And like you said, the texture too, because people with trich are looking for something very specific. They're looking for a texture. They're looking for us. There's sometimes a sore spot. And like, oh, if I pulled that one hair, that one eyelash, or that's growing in and it feels different. And oh, that texture's off. It feels pointy and it feels like it's poking my eye. I mean, all of these things, right? I mean, there's it's like we have these good reasons. Our subconscious has these good reasons, or I really want to see what that is. And I remember the first time I pulled a head hair. It was, I was 8. All my lashes were gone. So there was nothing there. And I remember feeling this coarse, weird hair, and I have naturally curly hair. And I thought, I want to see what that looks like. So I pulled that out, and that was it for me. It was like I was addicted. Oh, it had this root on it. And that looked like something. And then it ended up that I'm running that root through my lips, because there is a sensory thing that goes with this behavior. So, I mean, does this all sound familiar to you?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. Especially the lip thing. Like,
Yeah,
hmm.
people, that's nuts. But this is what this behavior is like. This is what it looks like. There's nothing to be ashamed about. A lot of people, I mean, so many people that I work with say that they've never told anyone this because it was so embarrassing. I used to bite the root off and eat it. That was like, or it didn't count, like I had to pull one with the root, or I wanted one that would bleed when you pulled it. Or, I mean, there are so many things that we end up starting to like I don't know, our mind just goes in this loop, and tapping helps break that. It actually changes your neural pathways. There are fMRIs that show that your brain activity is different just after 2 rounds of tapping, because your cortisol level lowers. And when we do the behavior of pulling, we're most likely in fight, flight, or freeze. Our cortisol level is up. We're trying to protect ourselves from something that feels uncomfortable or could harm us, which is usually nothing. It's, I have to do this dumb thing that I don't want to do. But that's the pattern that, you know, that most people with trich's brain goes through. And any way that you manage it is a good way. Any way that feels good for you to manage it. I have all these fidget toys on my desk that I recommend to clients. I have, you know, you can journal, you can write stuff down, you can, I mean, there are so many things. What would you, let's talk about a client that would come to you. How would you coach them?
Great. Thank you. So I think the first thing is understanding where are they in their journey? Are they at the point where this is the most shameful thing to them and their self-talk is very negative and that's where they're living? If that's the case, then we're going to do a lot more with your emotions and sharing with me and learning to feel comfortable and trying to release some of that shame. Because once you're in that shame bubble, I mean, you're trapped in that cycle. We've all been there. If they're more at their point in their journey where they've maybe feel a little bit of shame. I mean, that's normal, but they've released most of it and they're at the point where they want to take action. Like they want the next steps. Well, then it's like, how can I make slight changes in my day that give me great results? Because, you've heard it, we've heard it. Try this thing and that's great. Okay, well, I can't wear gloves for 24 hours a day. Like that's not going to help me. But can I wear a physical barrier when I'm at my laptop or when I'm in a car for, a long drive, maybe coming home from work? So it's little tiny things that you can add to the things that you're already doing that will help you in those moments where you notice my hand's coming up. It's just automatically going there. Now that I know that it's there, what's around me to help me? How can I make
Yeah,
a different choice?
those tools, or to make those choices, putting those things in your periphery, in your path, to be able to use them when needed and making a good decision, which for some people, it's, I just want to pull less. I just want to pull less. Or, some people will come to me and they'll say, I just want to have lashes by a certain date. What can I do? And that's motivation. But it's every day is a different day and a new day. And even if you screwed up, you don't have to beat yourself up about it. And hair grows back most of the time. I mean, I still have patches on the sides of my head that won't grow. I've done everything you can, microneedling, Rogaine, anything you can think of. They just won't grow back because I've done so much damage. And so what? I mean, what are you going to do? At least I have enough hair on my head right now to, um, be able to hide that. So I'm thankful for that. And you know what? It's part of your story. It's part of you. And it doesn't mean you're bad or good. It's just part of, hey, this is what I learned to keep myself safe. I was smart enough to come up with this thing, and it saved me from something that I needed saving from back then. And it's just something that I do, I mean, it's just part of me kind of thing. So I, I'm wondering, what's the best advice anyone ever gave you about Trich?
I think I want to credit my husband for this because it was already in my journey of, sharing and being more open and comfortable with sharing about my trichotillomania. And I remember so I had a 10-year gap of not pulling out my eyelashes completely. And then the pandemic hit, boom, they're gone again.
Mhm.
So after that moment, I like grew them back, and I remember I had an intense pulling spree, and I said to my husband, I'm like, oh, I can't believe I did this. Like I kind of like reverted back to like younger Barbara, like feeling that way and saying, oh, I can't believe I did this. And he was like, you've been here before. And I was like, oh yeah. It kind of like brought me back to present and being like, oh yeah, I have been here before. I've pulled out my eyelashes. They've grown back hundreds of times. Like I know what to do now. Like I know it's time for me to be nicer to myself. It's time to look around and say, well, what happened during this time? So maybe I can prepare better next time. It was just kind of like that nice little gentle, like, we've been through this. Like you can do this. I'm like, oh, okay. So I think that was probably one of the best things because it's so easy to fall back into that negative self-talk.
Mhm.
And that was plaguing me. Like that was just it for me. And so just to hear him be like, you've been here before. I'm like, oh yeah. And then I'm like, I have been here before. I know what to do now. And totally change how the rest of that moment could have gone. I could have been crying in the bathroom, pulling more.
Hey.
Instead, I was like, yeah, I am going to be proactive. Like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like, let's say some nice things to myself and build myself back up.
Mhm. So that my next question would be, what would you say to someone who has basically given up? Like, this is I'm just going to suffer forever. I'm meant to suffer. I'm meant to not have any hair. I'm meant to not have any lashes. I'm never going to be with anyone. I'm never going to meet anyone. Like, what would you say to someone who's basically like, I can't help this?
Mhm. I read a quote somewhere. I'm gonna mess it up, but it basically said that like suffering is a choice. Like you are actively choosing to stay in your suffering. And I think that so many of us have been in that position where we think this is the end of the world. This is it. Like I am the worst person. I'll never be able to stop. I'll never do X, Y, and Z. But you're actively choosing to be there. You can take baby steps, very small, little changes throughout the day to get you out of that place and realize that the life that you're living doesn't have to be that way. That you are being active in choosing to live in your suffering. There are so many people, everybody on the internet that is now being so open and honest and helping people in the community. There is someone for you out there who you can look to and work with and get help and change your mind. But if you don't want to, you have to admit that that's you. That's your decision.
That's 100% the truth. I kind of put the energy out there into the universe that I want clients to come to me that are ready to work, because it's work to implement these tools, to be conscious. to make decisions that are healthy instead of hurting you, you know? And I can't, honestly, there's probably been two people, and this, I changed careers to do this. I was a marketing graphic designer for 20 years. And once I found tapping, I thought, you know what, this is my calling. I'm meant to help people, tell people about this, how it works. And I, I just, why was I saying that? What the hell? I can't.
Well, I think you were going to say that you had a client that wasn't ready to do the work and maybe
Yes.
you had it end.
Clients, only two people have ever come to me that I've turned away that weren't ready to do the work. And I can usually, we have a discovery call, and I can usually tell right away that, hey, they're not ready. Or some people, I'll work with them for 4 sessions and they're not doing the homework. They're not tapping. They're not, they aren't there mentally. And that's fine. I just don't want to waste your time and money if you aren't willing to make the effort. I mean, it's an effort, right? It's like every day there's an effort there that you have to, you have to make. Do I want to do this? Do I want to pull today? Should I put on the tape? Well, am I going to be able to, uh, there's so much that goes on with it that no one could understand unless they actually had it, how hard it is to manage. It's not just like, you know, well, why don't you just stop doing that? You can't. You actually physically can't. And it's okay. But I think Barbara and I both teach that you don't have to beat yourself up about it. You don't have to feel shame about it. It's part of who you are. And it's not the end all be all. It doesn't define you. It's just part of you. And you can, you don't have to give up. There's always hope. If you feel like, if you want to work, there's always hope to manage it in a better way than just letting it, it's letting it manage you or you managing it. There's energy there that, you know, like I said, your subconscious is so powerful, but it's gaining back your control of, hey, I'm allowed to be in control of this. Even though this thing thinks it runs my life, I'm mad enough to to say, you know what, enough is enough. And I'm going to do something to change this. Do you agree?
100%. 100%. I think it's like there has to be the conversation within. Am I ready to make changes? And they're not even that big. Like they're not even huge changes. It's just little changes over time that are going to make you feel like it's not you're not a victim to this disorder. You can be in the driver's seat. Sometimes, maybe sometimes it takes over, but you can be up front. You don't have to just be like in the trunk and
Right.
fighting for your life to get out.
Yeah, and I'm in the process right now of writing, and I guess it's an ebook. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but it is the steps that I took, including using tapping and other tools that helped me be able to get over this addiction to pulling my hair out. So, um, everyone's different though, and things work differently for everyone. Not everyone, it doesn't work for everyone. I still have clients that see me that still pull often, or, but pull less, and they're okay with that. And I think that that's great. And just, Barbara and I are here to help, um, give you hope. And with that, I'm wondering if you can tell our listeners if they'd like to work with you, how they can find you, and if you have anything special to offer our listeners today.
Great. Thank you so much. So I am a virtual peer coach with Habit Aware, and so you can find out all of that information on habitaware.com. I also have a course called Sharing Our Stories. That's through my website, barbaralally.com. And what that is I created a guided journal after publishing my memoir. Some of the questions that I asked myself while I was writing, some of the experiences. And so, what you can do through sharing our stories is work with me one on one. We have prompts that we answer, we share, we have empowering activities that relate to the prompts. And that's a nice way to start getting more comfortable sharing your experience. I also host a free support group every month with the BFRB Changemakers nonprofit. And then I also host support groups every Monday in the BFRB Change Collective. So that's also through Habit Aware. So the virtual peer coaching And the BFRB Change Collective is through habitaware.com. And then sharing our stories is mine, barbaralally.com. And that's also where I meet with people to interview them to be on Trick Talks, my podcast, which
Wonderful.
you'll be on soon. So
Oh, wonderful. I'm so excited. I'm thrilled. So all of that information on how to get in touch with Barbara will be in the show notes at the end of the show. And I'm just so grateful that we could talk. And it's just, I'm glad that we're both doing good with, you know, the suffering, I guess, that we've endured by having this. It doesn't have to be. It's just a matter of the how you approach it, how you deal with it. It doesn't have to run your life. It's just a part of you. And I think we've both been able to overcome that in different ways. And um, it's just a blessing, I think, that we're I feel like the universe put us in touch so that we could be able to collaborate together or do something together at some point. And Habit Aware I've used and I recommend them to clients. I have two of them. They're fabulous. So yeah, there are bracelets that when you train them to know your behavior, and when you lift your hand to pull, it buzzes on your wrist to remind you, to get you out of that subconscious and say, hey, do you want to make a better decision right now? So it's one of the tools I use too and recommend, and it's a great tool. So I was just thrilled to get to have you here with me today. I would keep you all day if I could. But I just a reminder, if you'd like to work with me, you can schedule a free discovery call on my website, tapintohealth.net. Or if you're ready to start right now, you can download pre-recorded mini sessions. And I've also developed 30 days worth of tapping scripts specifically for trichotillomania. They're available in my online store for only $30. Thanks again for being here with us today. And until next time, keep tapping.